You're listening to the Imperfect Speaker Podcast with your host, Stephen W. Hello, listeners. Welcome to the Imperfect Speaker Podcast. I'll be your host, Stephen W., and I have a podcast. I actually got that off of Steve Harvey, the radio personnel, the mega superstar. I listen to his show every morning before I go to work. And for those of you who don't know the show, it's called the Steve Harvey Show. And after his introduction, he always comes on and he announces himself. And he finishes off with, I have a radio show. Now, I never understood why this mega star always has to announce that he has a radio show when I'm aware that you have a radio show. That's why I'm actually tuning in. I've never met him, would love to meet him, and definitely want to ask him that. But if I had to come up with a guess, being that I have my podcast now, and I think you all out there, especially athletes, might be able to relate to this, and anyone out there who has ever had a dream or a vision that they have pursued, went through the process, went through the hard work, the sweat, and the tears from the ground up, and actually witnessed it to manifest into something tangible that they can actually touch, see, hear, it is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful thing. And I think that if this is you, give yourself an applaud, a pat on the back, because it is not easy nowadays chasing your dreams. It is not easy going through the process of having a 9-to-5 and actually seeing something that you wanted to create, something that you created, become everything that you thought it was, from your mind to going on to paper to actually becoming something tangible. And it is something beautiful, and I think it definitely deserves to be announced. So I'm going to say it one more time. Thank you, listeners, for tuning in to the Imperfect Speaker Podcast. I am your host, Stephen W., and I have a podcast. Now that we've gotten the formalities out of the way, I have a great topic I want to talk to you superheroes about, and it's about utilizing the tools on your super belt to get you through challenging moments. The other day, I was trying to post something on Instagram, and I came across a little hiccup, so I reached out to a friend to try to see if I can gain some suggestions. And after my friend gave me a buffet of suggestions, which were great suggestions, they ended off with, Stephen, you have to become very creative with this. And a light bulb went off in my head. And it wasn't necessarily because of the suggestions that they offered, even though they were great. It was because when they said, you have to become creative, I said to myself, I am creative. I can do this. I create. This is what I do. See, I remember being a little boy, and I was the middle child, so I was always in trouble. And if you're the middle child, you know how it goes. You're never going to get as much attention as your brother or your sibling or your sister that's younger than you, and you're never going to get away with as much stuff as your brother or your sister that's older than you. So naturally, you was caught in the middle, trying to seek attention and always getting in trouble for something that your older sibling would have gotten away with. But that's neither here nor there. So I will always get in trouble, and I remember my mom telling me about a story of when I got in trouble and they took away my toys. Now, what I did after that was fascinating. I actually took a hula hoops. I might be dating myself, but this was back when hula hoops were very, very popular. I took my sister's hula hoop and I cut it in half. You know, that probably landed me in even more trouble, but that's neither here nor there. So I cut it in half, and there I had two halves of a circle. One created an arc, and I took some rubber bands and I tied them up together tie them at the end of the arc. And if you can visualize this, you have an arc with strings connected at both ends to the arc. I created a bow. I forgot what it was that I was looking at, what movie I was looking at, but I created a bow. I don't know what I used for the arrow, but the point of the story is when they took away my toys, I was able to create something to play with. And I probably had just as much enjoyment playing with that than I did with my toys. And it was perfectly legal. I was still on punishment. I wasn't playing with my toys yet. And still, I had used my creativity to create something to compensate for what was taken from me. So going back to IG, when my friends suggested the suggestions and they said, you have to be creative, I realized that creativity is one of my strengths. And I just totally forgot about that. But as a child, it was something I probably frequently utilized, my creativity. And not to mention that creativity is one of the strong characteristics of a Leo besides being a leader and being extremely handsome and beautiful. But that's neither here nor there. So now creativity was one of my tools that was given to me, was a natural thing that was embedded inside of me. It wasn't something external. It was something that was already given to me that was on my tool belt. And therefore, I figured, you know what? Let me try to utilize this to approach any situation that may be challenging or that may be a problem for me. If I have to have a conversation with my 16-year-old daughter and I just don't seem to be getting through to her, why don't I try to use my skill set in being creative and try to create a situation where I can come across a little bit better? If there's a challenging problem at work that I might become a little bit flustered with, why don't I try to remember my strength of being creative and try to approach it that way? Because if you approach problems with your strength, with your best foot forward, they will become less intimidating. And you will have a better angle and you will feel more confident approaching that situation. Because your strength is something that no one can take away from you. This tool that's on your belt is something that no one can take away from you. And for me, it may be creativity. For you listeners, you superheroes, it may be being persistent. It may be being calm. It may be being kind. It may be being loving. Whatever it is that you have a strength in, that is something that you're dominant in, I encourage you to use that when you're approaching a problem or situation or something that might seem challenging. If you're having a disagreement with someone and no one seems to be able to reach a resolution, why don't you try to utilize your strength that you may have forgotten you own already and approach it from there? Now, I'm not at all saying that when you utilize this, this may solve the complete problem. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that because this is your strength, you will feel more confident approaching the challenge, the problem, the situation, the conversation. It will be less intimidating to you because you have a stronger leg to stand on. This is a familiar zone. Your strength is going to put you in a familiar space. So I encourage you to try utilizing these tools that are on your tool belts that are given to you, that cannot be taken away from you, and see where they take you from there. Because I know all too well, and I'm pretty sure you listeners know, and you superheroes know, that the doubt cloud, the cloud of fear, the cloud of doubt, sometimes is so dense, we fail to see the star, which is you, that's right behind it. But when that sun ray peeks through that cloud, there is a chance of hope. And let's utilize your gift on your tool belt as that sun ray that's peeking through that cloud. That's going to give you a better chance of conquering and a better chance of handling the situation that might appear to be a big mountain. So, I definitely want to hear your feedback. If you agree, if you disagree, comments are always welcome. Thank you for tuning in. And as always, work on you. Work on you. Self-mastery. Work on you like you're seeking a promotion. And definitely don't forget your strengths, your gifts that are given to you that can't be taken away. Because they're yours and you own them. Till next time, my friends, be well. Thank you for listening to the Imperfect Speaker Podcast. If you found value, hit the subscribe button, and I'll conversate with you on the next one. Take care.
When you don't live up to your purpose, then you lose out. And if you're living in the past, you should move out. Yeah, man.